Hi, so it's Iman here, and I'm really delighted to be joined by Adam Broadway, who is running Near Me, an incredible company that's building some amazing marketplace features. Adam, thanks so much for joining me and for taking the time to share a little about the work that you're doing.
My pleasure, and appreciate the invite, Iman. So we talk about the changing face of e-commerce and the future of work and the marketplace-driven economy. And it's something that's been talked about and now actually rapidly accelerating towards for the last 10 years. I think we've seen some big changes. And so where I came from in my previous business life, my business partner and I started a company out of Sydney, Australia in 2004 called Business Catalyst. It was a SaaS business before AWS, before Google Cloud, before Azur, before any of those infrastructure as a service providers were around. So we built our own hosting environment, co-located in data warehouses, and built a SaaS company, which was very successful. In 2009, we got acquired by Adobe.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And we bootstrapped it. We didn't raise a dollar. We were begging for money back in the day. And for those of you who are listening and going, I'm a startup, I need funds, don't get too distracted by that. Go and verify your market hypothesis and talk to people, proof of concept, minimum viable product, focus on your customer problem first. And we did that with Business Catalyst, even though at certain points, like, oh, some money would be great. We didn't raise. So that was a wonderful exit for us. And while I was at Adobe, one of the things I noticed about all the incumbent SaaS products out there, whether it was Business Catalyst, our own product, Demandware, which is now called Commerce Cloud, acquired by Salesforce, Shopify, many are probably familiar with Shopify, and BigCommerce, and Magento. Magento has a marketplace module for products. It's a nightmare. I'll put it on record. It's a nightmare to use, having seen those projects. Volution, One Shopping Cart. There's just a plethora of commoditized software, which is do it yourself, drag and drop, build an e-commerce solution on top of their platforms. And the approach to those platforms is that they're architected to be one to many. There's a store owner and lots of customers. And that is a completely different model from a marketplace. A marketplace like eBay or Monster.com for jobs, Airbnb, TaskRabbit, Airtasker, Thumbtack, which got acquired by IKEA, Upwork, Odesk, Elance, Freelancer, which we'll talk about further with some examples. Of course, Match.com or OkCupid, maybe a few of the listeners, watchers have used those types of marketplaces. Etsy, of course, Amazon, Facebook, LinkedIn, Meetup. This is Intel's DevMesh, which is a peer-to-peer marketplace for Intel developers to connect with. Hallmarks, Keepsake Ornament Community, again, another big enterprise brand, building community, building a peer-to-peer way of having a very focused niche solution for those that are wanting to join in fact, subscribe to, they pay money to be part of this community. So you've got all these plethora of different approaches to a marketplace, but the architecture is fundamentally the same in a marketplace. It's many to many. It's a polymorphic data model. Lots of providers, lots of customers, a thriving community, and a marketplace owner. And one of the things I always like to encourage people to focus in on is communities of practice versus communities of interest. The communities of interest are the hobbyists, the tire kickers, the wannabes, they'll probably hang out in Facebook groups. Whereas the communities of practice are ones that are niches, where you have practitioners who are serious about taking on or being part of a community that they practice on a daily basis. Maybe their livelihoods depend on it. It could be that they're accountants or architects or they're builders or plumbers, but they're very focused in that specialization. And communities of practice are awesome to work with. Communities of interest can move towards being practitioners, and you want to have that Venn diagram where there's an overlap from communities of interest with communities of practice. But certainly if you're an entrepreneur thinking about where I should focus my time and effort, it's the communities of practice that you want to focus in on. We then, as I moved out of Adobe and started PlatformOS, aka Near Me Marketplaces, we broke down the major categories of marketplaces. And this is not a definitive list. It's just an easy way of thinking about the 4 Ps for marketplaces: people, products, places, projects. So think of, for people, and they're your freelancer type marketplaces, it's your white labeled Upwork or Elance or Odesk or Match.com and that type of person-to-person connection. Services. Products are the next P, your white labeled Etsy, Amazon, eBay. But you can also have digital products, and that's a separate category. You've got physical products, which require a payment gateway and possibly logistics with a shipping integration for pickup, delivery, and return if it's a rental marketplace, pickup and delivery only if it's a seller's marketplace. But these are physical products. Then there's digital products. I need to upload and download software. I'll give you an example of that too. Places is your white labeled Airbnb or Desks Near Me, and project-based communities are for building your own version of Facebook, focused on a community of practice where you have collaboration, create public, private, secret groups, let people connect with each other, and then kick off a project that they want to collaborate on to then make openly available for others to join in on. And there is a 5th P here. It's something to keep in the back of your mind, and that's the partners or franchise approach to your marketplace. So you build a marketplace, maybe it's a services marketplace or a recruitment site. As you get traction and you work out some of the pain points and create an amazing customer experience and a beautiful user experience in the interaction through the mobile, the desktop, or native apps that you've built for that marketplace, how could that be then leveraged for others to use? How do you build a marketplace that could be white labeled in and of itself, so that a big, large corporate comes along and goes, hey, we love what you're doing there. Our legacy system is a nightmare. People aren't using it, but we'd love to use yours. Can we white label it? So you could think about a master franchisee approach to anything you build, something that our platform is also architected for. I skipped over the last slide. It's just stats on how the growth is happening in the collaborative consumption space, sharing economy. Before we get into the demo, just a quick high-level overview of how the platform works. You can build public and private communities. You can create any kind of data object. So once you've defined a data object, it could have many attributes. If it's a product marketplace, maybe it's got lots of attributes relating to car models or camera equipment or surfing equipment or golfing equipment. It just doesn't matter. You can create any kind of model that has attributes which then become searchable. So that also goes for user profiles. Building a marketplace that's focused in the freelancer space, could a participant in that marketplace be both a service provider and a customer? Maybe they can. So they need to be able to have any number of user profiles attached to their user account. As a customer, my user profile requires these fields to be filled out. As a service provider in that marketplace, I need a totally different set of profile questions asked and answered, which may include qualifications that need to be verified through a third-party background check. So you can have models, data models that have profile information attached to it. You can then have actions applied to an object. So Adam wants to rent his bicycle. Iman wants to sell his services by the minute after 15 minutes of free time through a video conference call. So the actions come in as rent, share, time-based services, auction bidding, buy, sell. You can actually have any kind of action applied to an object, and then you lead to a transaction. So an object, Adam wants to rent his time in talking about strategic marketplace initiatives via a web link, and it's going to be paid for. The transaction will be through ACH or through credit card or through a Bitcoin. It's whatever your business model, whatever your audience has a propensity to want to use. So don't go throwing any blockchain, crypto things into your marketplace mix because it's a buzzword. What are your customers and what are your service providers most likely to use? And how do you do a frictionless approach to onboarding around that? Because the more barriers you put up around getting people on board, oh, what's your bank account details? Oh, do you have a wallet with XYZ crypto? Oh, you don't? We'll click here. Forget about that. You need progressive onboarding strategies. We have APIs for everything. That's very important. Whatever marketplace that you're going to build, think about, okay, sure, we need a web page. Is it going to be a progressive web app? Is it going to be native at some point? Is our audience using Amazon Alexa or Google Home or some other IoT-powered interaction with the site? So thinking from an API perspective is vital, because web pages will die off sooner than later. Voices everywhere. Internet of Things is taking off. 5G is going to be pervasive. We've got Amazon doing their thing with, what was that, low Earth orbit satellites coming in. We've got SpaceX, who've just deployed a whole bunch of low Earth orbit satellites. The whole world will be covered in 5G in the next 5 to 10 years. What's your strategy to leverage that? Okay. Predictive Analytics is another thing that we have built into the platform, and that's where you can then use algorithms to do similar to what Facebook does. We're looking for the peer group leaders and peer group spreaders inside the marketplace. So a few examples. I've got a few tabs open up here, as you can see, Iman. So just stop me if you need to get a word in edgewise.
No, I think that looks really good. Just a couple of thoughts now is that it seems what you've built here is a highly customizable platform that provides a lot of detail in the minutiae, and is going to be incredible at scale. I think what a lot of people will be thinking about is whether this applies to them as they're just getting started. So maybe you can give a couple of examples as to some of the smaller startups that might be using your platform, in addition to some of the huge ones like Intel that you're already serving.
Yeah, sure. That's a great point. I think it's aspirational for every entrepreneur to want to be, I'm going to solve the world's problems. I'm going big, and whatever your exit strategy is, whether that is to IPO or get acquired or to change the world because you're providing a better service, you need to know that you're going to be able to grow into it. So yeah, I will focus on a couple of examples of startups like The Vault, which is extremely successful. 3 lawyers out of Perth, Australia, friends and family, put together a little budget, very small budget. And what they're doing is amazing. They actually just closed a $500,000 round after getting 100,000 active users per month. And they're built on our platform with low budget, not huge monthlies. And they're an example I'll get to in a moment when it comes to scale from startup to heading towards enterprise. I'll show you DevMesh, which is Intel's approach to solving the problem of getting people out of Facebook. So Intel DevMesh, powered by PlatformOS, as you can see with Wappleizer, it's going to allow developers all around the world to use the Intel single sign-on and register as a developer, and they can then connect with other developers around the world. You could find someone who's close by, you could go and join a group, etc. And they're using this to define who are the most active, trustworthy, credible people within the community based on activities, projects, groups that they're connected with and interacting with. So it's an incredibly powerful way of identifying trustworthy participants in this ecosystem, in this marketplace. And we can see here that Fabrizio, as a member, has developed some really cool things using Intel technology. This is his handheld digital cane for the blind. So it's a handheld sonar device. Intel had no idea that this was being developed on their technology until they launched DevMesh, and developers and people in the community started highlighting what they're doing. The next logical step, and you can see that all the things going on in here and what Fabrizio's involved with, and is very Facebook-like, but a very narrow focus on Intel activities. We can also go and search across all of the collections and projects going on in the DevMesh community and go, wow, I'm interested in artificial intelligence, Intel RealSense, Internet of Things. Now, all of these are customizable attributes. You can see it's very fast as well. So I can go ahead and find the things in this community that are of interest to me, find out who did it, connect with them, start a group, get involved with all sorts of things that are available, topics that I want to follow, etc. And this is something, as I said, built on PlatformOS. The next logical thing could be that, well, as a developer and as a network globally of people who have got credibility in the community, what if the next step is I will allow people to sell their time? So you could go to Upwork or Odesk or freelancer.com for the race to the bottom, cheapest developers in the world, or you could build a marketplace on DevMesh where the best Intel developers are available, and it's a move up the value chain. So I'm not racing to the bottom. I'm building a trustworthy marketplace of Intel developers. I'll go somewhere else for the cheapest and I'll get what I pay for. But if I want the best, I'll use DevMesh.
So just to jump in here quickly, Adam, it sounds from the outside perspective that a lot of entrepreneurs, I think, would jump straight into the monetization side of things. They want to build a marketplace that's relatively transactional. But actually, on PlatformOS and near me, you can provide all the other kind of things that you need as what you would normally consider marketing. You know, building the community out, engaging users, and then you can power all of that stuff. And then when people want to monetize it, then they can again use your platform just to add that level of monetization to it.
100%, totally, exactly right. Yes, and in fact, I think the strategy of being able to build community around your marketplace is critical. And one thing that entrepreneurs get wrong sometimes is, oh, but they might take the transaction off the site and they're going to rent the room by giving their number, and we need to build technology that stops people sharing their email and stops people sharing their mobile. Well, they're going to do it anyway. Where there's a will, there's a way, and people will do it. You might as well make it easy for them to do that on your marketplace and connect and just do the deal and make the booking, even if you're seeing it happen through the instant messaging, because that's intelligence that you can be gathering on how you can, well, what's stopping them from using our platform then? Aren't we giving them enough value? Aren't we giving them free insurance? Or what's the sticky point? Maybe our customers are just not loyal anyway, and they're going to go with whatever's free. And so who wants those sorts of customers, right? We're going to go out of business, particularly in a marketplace where margins are slim. You need massive volume. And if you're monetizing from the get-go and you're going to want to get profitable quickly, you're going to need massive amounts of people. So you better be focused on building community and hopefully ongoing transactions with your community. Even if those transactions aren't monetized, transaction could be people are using it for instant messaging, for participating in group chat. So the transactions don't have to be monetized or financially focused on a credit card. It could be that the data, look at Facebook. The early days, they didn't monetize, they didn't have ads. Their transactions were people were following each other and liking, and they were building up that community. And so that's my advice as you
just quickly on that point. So I definitely appreciate what you're saying is, the carrot is better than the stick. But presumably if people want to add a bit of stick in there, you could actually build that into your marketplace as well.
You totally could. I mean, our platform is completely configurable. There's no constraints, and we'll get to some of the documentation and how that's done. But yeah, you could look. You get 5 interactions for free, or once we notice that you've had these bookings come through, then you've proven the value. Well, hey, it's X amount a month as a subscription approach versus transactional. We're going to take 15 or 25% of every transaction. What if you just cover the costs of your Stripe or PayPal costs with a small margin, 5%, and charge a subscription of $5 a month? If you've added the value or shown the value for somebody over.
So this is something new then. This is what I'm hearing is that your platform is so configurable that your clients, the owners of these marketplaces, can go through many different iterations of their business model to try and figure out how they can actually make money rather than be limited to, let's say, just a listing fee or a commission fee.
Exactly.
Okay.
100% right. Yep. And here's an example of a community that actually charges subscription. So Hallmark, the Hallmark card company, and they have a number of business units in lots of different niches, which I didn't realize until now. And the Keepsake community is one where, if we look at how many members they've got, let's have a look, probably 60,000 members, 68,428 members. But these are paying subscribers. So you pay an annual fee to be part of this community. And so as a community member, you can come in and you can interact. It's think of it as Hallmark's own brand of Facebook. And so we've got just the same sort of interaction. I can leave and comment and upload my photos, but it's all very focused. It's a community of practice around keepsake ornaments. I'm either creating them and sharing them with the community, or I'm collecting them and swapping them. So we now have people that are sharing all sorts of stuff. They're sharing their experiences, they're giving feedback, there's videos, there's groups and physical clubs as well. So there's not just an online group, but there's physical clubs people go to.
So you've kind of combined Pinterest with Meetup, with Facebook, and you're giving these clients, in this case Hallmark, everything they need from any different kind of social platform to be able to make their community really strong.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's really around making that community really strong. That's the key word. How do you make the community really strong? And those points that you raised about that hybridized approach is exactly what they've achieved. And think of the next step in the members having Etsy-like functionality where they're buying and selling between each other. But let's switch gears and look at some other examples. I'm not sure if anyone watching has heard of UiPath. They're in the robotic process automation space, RPA, previously known as middleware. And it's just a reinvention of that word. They're the largest and fastest growing tech company in history based on revenue. So last year, March 2018, they were valued at $1 billion. This is after 12, 13 years of working hard and building a great business. So valued at $1 billion last year in March. March this year, valued at $7 billion, and they're still growing based on annual recurring revenue. Absolutely off the charts. Nothing else is, no other company in tech has had that kind of growth. So what are they doing on us? They've got two marketplaces. They have Go and Connect. Connect is the community marketplace where I can go and connect with people. Now, they've only launched this relatively recently, and they've got already over 32,000 users. These are developers who are RPA, robotic process automation experts, and they've gamified. So when we look at a user's profile, there's certain badges and achievements that we can see that they're getting. This is all data that the UiPath use to identify who are the upcoming or who are the people to invite to an event. And people can connect with each other, but they're also in the Go marketplace accessing digital products. So these are components that can be uploaded and then either purchased or downloaded to use with the UiPath enterprise software, which is a completely separate piece of software. It's a .NET written in C# or something, and you install it and run it in your enterprise. But the components, this is a digital marketplace.
So this is Envato plus Upwork.
There you go.
Yeah.
I love it. I love how you can connect the dots between existing, that's a great, Envato, an Australian company, I believe, part of the Commonwealth. And that's a great way of putting it.
Can I just make another quick comment here, Adam? Is that, I know maybe you can't say too much about this, but is it fair to say that your platform can power billions of dollars of transactions in terms of the level of scale? Okay.
Yeah. And the way that's done is, my background was in hardware. The last company, Business Catalyst, we build our own hardware infrastructure to host. So we understand what it takes to build a highly scalable, both horizontally and vertically. We also, we take advantage of AWS, of course, but we're also multi-platform. So Azur, Google hosting, we do not want to have infrastructure lock-in, and we understand how to build scalable systems, have for a long, long time. I go back to the MS-DOS days and actually ZX80 Spectrum and I had an Amstrad for those English amongst us who remember Amstrad. That's how I got started in hardware. So yeah, you can scale and build for any size company. Here's a really interesting business model. This is a services-based marketplace by Spark.co.nz, the largest telco in New Zealand. And like most telcos, they realized that their business models are dying. What are they going to do in the future? They thought they would experiment and do a minimum viable product built on PlatformOS to focus in on just 4 initial service categories. So it's a services marketplace where I look for a plumber, a builder, a butcher, a a butcher, baker, candlestick maker, somebody who is a specialist in that craft. I need an architect, I need an accountant, whatever. So they started with a proof of concept. And the idea is that I put up a quote. So I need a gardener. And there we go. So I need a gardener. I'm going to come through and I say, yeah, I need an arborist.
So this is looking like Thumbtack at the moment.
Exactly right. So think of this as Thumbtack. So you could build Thumbtack on PlatformOS. And these are all service categories that have very distinct workflows and requirements. And once I've put in my details, it will then send out an alert to a service provider in that geography. And then you get quotes back, you pick one. Now, the matching is done based on some algorithms relating to how quickly people respond, the service providers, what kind of ratings and reviews they get. And the business model is quite amazing too, in the way that they do that. I won't go into details because it's a little bit of secret sauce for what we do. Here's the point though. They built a proof of concept. They wanted to launch with an initial 4 categories of marketplaces. Their requirement was that they had a net promoter score, an NPS, that's marketing speak for, what's the propensity for a customer to recommend us to others. They needed to get an NPS out of 100 of 35 or greater. And they got 65. So they were very happy. We got an NPS of 65. Let's continue. So then they launched with another up to a total of 12 service types. They went all out with their marketing and had a much larger quorum of customers involved. They expected the NPS to drop. They got a 93 out of 100, the highest NPS in the history of business units over there in Spark. And they're doubling down now. So quite incredible approach that they did. Amazing team to work with. And they took a startup mindset inside of a large company. So any enterprise companies who are thinking, we want to try something, we don't really have too much budget, we need a proof of concept. That's what we did. Let's move though to more of the genuine startup. I've quit my day job. As in the case with the Vault, 3 lawyer ladies who are based out in Perth who were sick of their lawyering jobs and wanted to do something a little bit different. So what did they do? Well, let's firstly bring up an incognito browser, because what's important also is whatever marketplace you're going to build, how are people going to find you? They don't know to search for the Vault. They don't know about your website. They're going to search things like wedding, dress, hire, Perth. All right, so what's going to come up? And the Vault is in the organic listings, #1 spot ahead of all of these very well-funded startups who have been around for a long time. So how does that happen? Well, you've got to be building on the right platform, and you've got to have the right search engine marketing people and the right SEO strategy, and the technology needs to support that. So the Vault has the right search engine marketing team who are looking at what are the long tail search keywords. And here's some Dion Lee dress hire Perth. Let's do a search for that and see what happens. I've not done a search on this before, so let's see. Oh, the Vault. So the top 2 organic listings are the Vault. So they're getting organic listings, not paying for these leads. And these landing pages are automatically injecting user-generated content to meet the SEO requirement for Google. So the Vault started off small budget, built an MVP, and now they've gone on, they've got over 100,000 active users per month. They closed a $500,000 US round, and they're kicking butt. And this is an example of entrepreneurs who are very focused. Also, they've taken a long-term view of building their business. You need to be able to invest 3 years at least to be serious about your business. If you're wanting to just do a proof of concept and you're going to build the next unicorn in the next 6 months, good luck to you. Maybe talk to somebody who's done that.
Good luck.
Yeah. So if you can find someone who's done that, please, I'll give you $500,000 to give me the introduction to that person. And yeah, maybe I'll make that a serious offer. But the point is,
you heard it here first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it takes time to build a successful business, and these ladies are in it for the long haul. They've done a sensational job on brand building. They've been able to experiment, adjust, work on their SEO, and they're now They're
At
crushing it
what point did they come to you? So just, for those startup
from the
entrepreneurs
start.
out there from the beginning. Okay.
Yeah, they built on us from the start. Exactly. So they had a proof of concept, minimum viable product idea, which we then executed for them. And they had limited budgets, so they're in the small medium end of the spectrum. We don't do it yourself. Do it yourself generally means that either you're an incredible technology person and you've got an amazing co-founder who's focused on marketing, sales, and customer experience. What we find is the do-it-yourself approach, similar to Weebly or Wix or Squarespace, is that building a marketplace that doesn't usually have very successful outcomes because doing it yourself from a technology perspective means drag and drop. What you see is what you get kind of editing experience, which we can do, but there's not as much flexibility to adjust your business model, and you need to be able to do that. So we tend to focus on those types of builds that at least have a more realistic budget approach. $200 a month minimum for a startup on the hosting, and anything for budgets up to $30,000 for the build, and that's to throw pricing out there because people are probably going, well, how much?
Well, while we're on that, just if you don't mind, just sticking on pricing for a sec, because a lot of people might be blown away by the kind of clients that you have working with, and they're probably thinking to themselves, well, I just don't have that. They might think we're not in that category. So maybe just speaking to those entrepreneurs out there with short budgets, you mentioned 200 a month for the hosting. Presumably that's just the bare minimum. Do you have another kind of a monthly subscription fee on top of that? What does that look like if you just go through some of the details?
Sure. So anything from $200 is you get access to everything. So you're still on the same enterprise stack. And that's why some people say, well, I can get GoDaddy hosting for $5 a month. Okay, then that's something that you might want to. I can get free Google Forms. In fact, that's something that I do say to some entrepreneurs who just don't even know what they want to do. I want to build a marketplace. Okay, what's your specialization? What do you bring to the table around knowledge in that vertical or niche? Oh, I don't know yet. I'm just thinking about it. Okay, well, when you find a niche, you might want to use some free services. There's Google Forms. Throw together a quick landing page on a WordPress site or something. You might as well go down that route and not actually build a real marketplace, because testing the market doesn't cost very much. If it's just about sign up here for our new marketplace around connecting elderly care with trusted service providers. Now, what you would want to do is, if you're really serious and you've got expertise in that niche and you know what they need, then I would recommend building it on a platform like ours, which gives you the scope to adjust. But for those who are still just, I don't know, I'm just testing it, then you can use free tools and just go with the Google Forms.
Because a lot of people, even once they've tested it, there may be a category of entrepreneurs out there who don't have access to the kind of capital that may meet your initial requirements. So people who may be able to bring kind of 10 grand to build a small MVP, even at that stage, it sounds like they're not really in your sweet spot. Would you say that's accurate?
The good news is that we have channel partners building on our platforms, and one based in the UK is SiteGlide. SiteGlide have built their entire content management email marketing solution on PlatformOS. And they do traditional landing page, websites, e-commerce, etc., working with a lot of their own great partners. And they're built on PlatformOS. So I would say go and talk to the SiteGlide team around.
So could they build a marketplace for these entrepreneurs on PlatformOS? Okay.
Yes, and they've built a design system and a UI on the top of PlatformOS to help people bootstrap very quickly if they don't have quite the budgets that we work with when we're working with mid-tier companies. So there is alternatives. There's our channel partner network. And I'm going to show you also our module marketplace, which those who are technically inclined but would rather have somebody else do some of the code for them, a way to deploy code in minutes that gives, say, a video profiling capability. And I'll get to that in just a second. I'll just maybe head back and give one more example on the SEO. This is desks near me, like it's Airbnb for office space. And if I'm looking for a spare desk in New York City, because of course I don't know to search for desks near me, spare desk in New York City, I need desk near me is the first organic link. Click on that. And we have API endpoints that search engine marketers can access, and they can work out what the long tail search engine, what do they call it? Long tail keyword searches that people are using. And if I now search for New York lease a workspace for a day, which apparently lots of people are using, the top two spaces here are desks near me, ahead of Liquid Space, ahead of bunch of others, including Breather. All these are very, very well-funded companies. But Destiny on a $0 budget doesn't spend a cent on marketing. This is now a sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy happening. Is feedback loop in the SEO side of things with long-tail keywords, people finding them, getting listings. We automatically can inject content onto the page and create landing pages, which are completely configurable from a look and feel perspective, but it takes the URL and incorporates that into the database query, which injects the content onto the page, and you can see how fast that is too. So from an SEO perspective and doing long tail keyword optimization, the platform's brilliant. And if we look at, say, our documentation site, we can get 100 out of 100 in Google page speed for both desktop and mobile. Some content management systems don't give you that once you've added a couple of plugins, because they're not optimizing for that, whereas we do. So this is very critical now. The speed in which your site loads is very important. And so making sure that your platform and your tech stack will give you these sorts of scores in Google is important. We also support Google Amt Pages. This is Adventures in Travel Made Easy. It's just a demo site. We provide code so that those who are sort of who want to play around with code, you can get access to our GitHub repo and pull down some code and start building out an AMP optimized site. As you can see here, it's powered by PlatformOS, but it's also AMP friendly, accelerated mobile pages. You don't have to be Google AMP compatible, not really critical as long as you're fast. AMP is Google's way of trying to corner the market around their global content delivery network. We can get faster than AMP page speeds, but it's just good to know that that's an option. Our documentation is award-winning. In fact, the UK Technical Communication Awards, which just happened, gave PlatformOS an award for its documentation. So we're very proud of that. Yeah, thank you very much.
So we'll have to provide the links to those.
Yeah, so we're part of the award winners. Just a month ago, you can see our little stamp of approval here from the ISTC. And that was awesome. This is a peer-reviewed award that we got for our documentation. So it wasn't a crowdsourced vote. It was actual experts. And the ISTC have been around for, I think, 30 years or so. And they review technical documentation across the spectrum, not just API documentation, but technical books, etc. So we're very proud of that prestigious award. I did mention SiteGlide. People are building entire SaaS businesses on PlatformOS. During the PowerPoint presentation, I talked about the predictive analytics engine that we have, something that the average startup needs not worry about at the moment, but it is important to think, okay, what can I do with all this data once I get lots and lots of data? How can I identify my peer group leaders and spreaders in my marketplace?
Is this one of the features that would be included within that monthly subscription, or is this a kind of add-on?
This is an add-on once you get data. It's usually for those people who have huge aspirations to grow big and then want to fine-tune. And once you get a lot of data and you can build a model around your particular marketplace and the interactions that exist within peer groups, particularly tight-knit peer groups where there's reciprocity, where we're connected to each other, but we're also connected to the same person over here. Over time, we can look at those dynamic peer groups forming and changing and shifting to see who are the peer group leaders and spreaders. And then you can focus and predict who to, and these little red things around here suggest these people need to get the message first. And then over time, they will accelerate and amplify that message. It's what Facebook does when they, I guess,
And do you
socially
have
engineer.
do you have a user engagement tool that can then integrate with this data? So once you've identified these key network connectors, you can send a mail out to them to say, hey guys, you're the first ones to see about this new link or something like that.
And that exactly, and it could be that it's actually embedded on the page. So Google's whole ad engine is based on every like, every connection that you do, and so it's building a psycho profile on you and injecting the right ads dynamically. And so that's
Okay.
the ability to create a model on you and who you influence, and the interplay between that it can be used. It could just be integrated straight into Salesforce if you wanted to, or you could build your own CRM on PlatformOS. And when you bring up Adam's record, you can look at who Adam influences, because maybe I've bought nothing, but I influence people, so I should get the Christmas card. Even I have, so a bean counter might look at Adam Broadway and go, huh, he's brought in 0 revenue, dead loss. Well, no, what if Adam's an influencer in the community? What if Adam's connections actually brought a whole bunch of people in? He's one of the most valuable community members, even though he's not spent a dollar. That's important stuff to know.
Sure.
I'm going to quickly just show you one of the video features. I'll go and actually create an instance in PlatformOS. This is one of the technical interfaces that most people won't need to worry about. And we're actually Iman video.
So just to clarify, this is what your guys would be doing behind the scenes when you set up someone's marketplace.
Yes, and in fact, I'll just pause the share for a second. I'm going to go and find my other, here we go. I've got my design system here. I'll share that again. What we're in the middle of doing is our own design system is in Figma here. We use Figma, it's awesome. We're redeploying the entire partner portal. And part of that is an onboarding process, which we've built out, which will allow people, technical and non-technical. I'm a bit technical. There we go. I'm not technical. I'm a bit technical. I'm a programmer. And so we're going through this approach, and it will be launched soon, where you can go, I'm not technical. Click, 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 deploy on PlatformOS. Now, you would probably still need to get some assistance in the configuration of that. That's where our channel partners come in. That's where we come in. And if you've got budget, we can actually do the build beyond it. And that's what I'm about to show now, is how quickly we can deploy.
And sorry, just to clarify there, in terms of those 3 types of technical ability available, are there pricing structures that are relating to these? So for example, if you are not technical and you just want to install something, and we don't want to charge you guys so much in terms of the time that you spend, is there a kind of a pricing structure that's aligned to that?
We have a usage-based pricing structure similar to AWS, and that's where the $200 a month minimum kicks in. And it's usually focused on our channel partners. So for people building a marketplace, I'm taking you through how to get started, but it's usually for the technical person in your team or the agency or designer you're working with to help them get started quickly. If you're an entrepreneur and you want to do it all yourself, we're probably, even though it says I'm not technical and you can deploy very quickly, the moment you start asking questions around, and what about this? And I want to do that. And my business model is this. We go, okay, let's do a proper blueprint with you to look at how much you've really thought through this problem. And if you haven't, we can provide that assistance, but that costs.
Yeah. So is it fair to say then that someone who doesn't have a huge amount of budget and wants to use your system with the least possible cost, it's not really necessarily suitable for them? You might turn to them and say, actually, this isn't really suitable for you, and
we would say
redirect them.
We would say, go to SiteGlide for sure, because they do that. They have packages where they help with the minimum viable product for those on a tight budget.
So if you have 10,000, go to SiteGlide, test it out, and then when you're ready to grow at scale, maybe you might continue with them, or even come back to yourselves and go directly.
Correct. You've got the opportunity to maintain that with SiteGlide. They're a key partner for us, or they say this themselves. We allow you to continue to build on PlatformOS in whatever direction you want. That might be very custom. So there's no constraints.
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's build this site. We're going to call it Iman Video, and it's going to go on this staging data center. And I'll just pick this billing plan, and
Oh, just another quick point as we go through.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want to
No
interrupt
problem.
you too much, but it just occurred to me from the GDPR angle in terms of data center location. Do you have
Great
London,
question.
European kind of bases?
Yes,
Okay.
we do. So you would choose to be on London, like SiteGlide does for many of their customers, although they have a lot of US and international customers as well. Let's go back to our documentation and look for GDPR. So are we GDPR compliant? Let's look at the article. So the answer is yes, but more importantly, what happens when they change policy or the compliance requirements are needed to be updated, or they bring in a new one for a different kind of business vertical? Rather than go hard code the compliance requirements for GDPR, we build a framework because it's GDPR in the UK and Europe, but it could be TSDR in California, and then a different country has a different set of requirements. We built a policy framework so that this can be completely updated and adjusted according to the needs and the jurisdictional legislation that gets created, and making sure that we can adhere to that without a hard-coded approach.
So you future-proofed your privacy options.
That's
basically.
right. Yeah. Exactly right. Totally. Exactly right. I love the way you can just take my words that are blah, 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 and just concisely break it down. You got a winning video cast thing going on here, Aman. All right, so let's get over to that thing I was going to just launch. I just created a site, so we'll take a look to see if that's been created as an initial staging site with a URL. And yes, it has. Hey, congratulations, you've got an instance. So that's been created. Let's go and add some functionality. I'm going to install a blog. Let's say I want to install a blog. Now there's some customizations that I can add here through a template. And by the way, you can use any front-end framework on PlatformOS. There's no constraints. So whether it's React or Node or plain old CSS, JavaScript, whatever. We also have a command line interface CLI tool for those technical might be listening. And so although I'm kind of clicking a few buttons and I'm launching functionality, and I'll go back to your site now and I'll refresh to see if the blog was deployed, and it has. So I've just deployed an entire blog module, and I can go in and start. I've now got blog functionality, which is completely customizable. But what if I want to add some other stuff? I'm going to go into my little module marketplace. I'm going to look for video, if I spelt it right, video profile functionality. I'm going to make sure that that goes onto your instance, Iman test
And
site.
just while you're doing this, Adam, it occurs to me that given that you've built all these modules, if an entrepreneur comes with 30 grand and you have all these modules available, you can get a lot done within your team for 30 grand.
Oh, that's right. You could accelerate your, exactly right. So I'm going to, it's called Sign, I think. There we go, Sign. So this is a sign-in module that one of our channel partners created. And I'm going to put that on my Iman test site. Some are free, some cost. So this is a free, thanks Scott Reynolds for that amazing module. And if I install these two, I'm installing multiple modules from different developers, and they all interact with each other. And
how does this work on a pricing basis? So I'm one of your entrepreneurs. You've got all these hundreds of developers building modules, adding them to your list. Is it just a free marketplace and you can add any of them, or?
It is a marketplace, and some are paid for one time. Some are per month. Some are free if you install the core, like with the CBO Insights core functionality and whole dashboard and admin that they've built. So it really comes down to the channel partners and how they want to price things. So we see here that some are free, some cost.
Can an entrepreneur who's thinking about how to spend their 30 grand actually look at this? Is this a public portal?
This isn't public at this point. Yeah, it will become public probably in 6 to 12 months.
That would be handy, I can imagine, because if they're comparing quotes with a custom development team and your platform, they can see these are all free. These are going to cost me 10 quid a month. It will really help them to shift towards you than to go to a custom agency.
Exactly the direction we're going right now. And we're, as I said, with what we were doing with our design system in Figma, where is it? Yep. Anyway, I'll show that later. But you saw the design system. We're revamping the partner portal. Our new marketing site will go up. We've kind of taken a reverse approach to developing the software. Develop the software, develop amazing documentation, develop a partner portal, and then later on, develop a marketing site. So we don't actually advertise. We've got so much work coming in just from word of mouth and some SEO. But shortly, actually, Q1 next year, we're going all out. Everybody will hear about us rather than just word
Look
of
forward
mouth
to
as
it.
we're doing now. Yeah, it's exciting. Sign in. All right, there we go.
Nice.
So I'm going to
Okay.
actually register. So let's put in Adam.
So how long did that take? Like 30 seconds?
I was, yeah, about that. PlatformOS. And let's sign up. So I've just signed up. I've created an account, I'm hoping, and we'll sign in, see if that works. Yeah, I'm signed in. So this can now be used across the site in different ways. But where we want to go now is to the video. And if I go back to my instance, we can have a look at the functionality that I installed, which is the video profile tool that Daniel created. And there's a whole bunch of documentation related to it. So it'll tell us what we can do and we can access it. This is the URL that I need. And having installed this now on your test site, there's my video profile functionality and documentation. Now, of course, I want to customize this and I'm going to use it somewhere, but let's go ahead and preview and test how this works. Create a profile. This is now going to say lights, camera, action. So I can go through the process, lights, camera, action. What am I going to say? Think of a marketplace that has the need for a video profile where you want participants in the marketplace to introduce themselves.
This could be an Upwork profile, for example. Sorry, Adam, just to interrupt here. Maybe don't click to actually record. Otherwise, it might take over our Zoom conference.
I've done it before and it should be okay.
All right.
Let's give it a try. I have done it before. Here we are. Look, so you can see this. What I love about this, and Daniel's just a genius. If I go to configure, it's automatically set to stop recording 2 seconds after the script finishes, which is fine, good. But what about the auto cue? Cool. And hi, my name is, and what it will also do is automatically insert my name. And you can have this as text, which if we play this, let's just do that. I need it faster. So there's my auto cue. So I can be prompting my participants on what they need to say so that they can record a nice video, which I will do now. So I'll hit record. 3, 2, 1. And then, hi, my name is Adam. I specialize in designing and building marketplaces. I look forward to being part of the community, learning and sharing my skills. Now I can play that back. Hi, my name is Adam. I specialize in designing and building marketplaces. I look forward to being part of the community. Great. All right, that's good. I don't like it. I can start over. So let's just, actually I should have just kept that one, but I'm scratching that. Hi, my name is Adam. I specialize in designing and building marketplaces, and I'm very thankful to Aman for having me on this video cast.
Too kind.
And now I'm happy with that. I upload it. So now it's gone, it's finished, it's uploaded. It's now done. It's now part of my profile. I will go and preview and test. And you can see, there's my video profile.
Wow.
Hi, my name is Adam. There it is, it works. So I can do all sorts of stuff with this. It's already up on the S3 bucket associated. It's
Can
optimized.
I jump in there, Adam, quickly? Yep. So you've obviously loaded up to S3 there. So you're running off some sort of AWS integration. If the marketplace owner then wants to understand the tech stack behind it in terms of where all the data is located, is that going directly through PlatformOS, or do they also have access to some sort of AWS configuration, or they don't need to worry about any of that stuff?
They don't have to worry about it, but they still have access to all of their data and models. So let's see, export. Let's say they want to export all their data. So we can go in and there is data export. And obviously anything on an S3 bucket is accessible as well. So you can bring all your assets down. So you can do data export with our command line interface tool. You can actually authorize other services to do that in the background. You can also use our API webhook approach. So maybe you want to duplicate data as it's being entered into your marketplace so that it's just also put somewhere else.
But they don't necessarily have direct access to the bucket itself.
No.
No.
The bucket, yes, the bucket they will be able to access if they create an authorization policy that gives them access to that. So yes, they can.
And then with user authentication as well, you might be using, for example, Cognito, AWS Cognito, and they wouldn't necessarily have access to go directly into that particular AWS service.
That's right. There's certain things that are completely, we need to make sure that we're updating all of the application servers, and we use Docker and Kubernetes, Terraform and other tools to deploy and make sure things are scalable and cross-infrastructure compatible as well. Obviously, Google hosting has a different way of storing assets than AWS, than Azure. And so there's ways that we map between those services when we deploy to a different infrastructure.
So presumably then it's even easier to use because you're providing a front-end management dashboard that means that developers don't necessarily have to go into those systems and set all that up independently.
Correct. And even our partner portal data center option. This is something actually, we're a Google Cloud partner. I can go and create a new data center connector. Now you don't see this. This is not something that the general developer or user needs to worry about. But we've built our own tools that allow us to connect to any region, any data stack endpoint, and then that becomes available in our instance creation service. So yeah, we're commoditizing DevOps, and we're commoditizing a whole bunch of polymorphic many-to-many models. And we're creating best practice documentation, and we're making sure that it's all SEO awesome and performant and scalable. And you can build your own SaaS company, you can build your own marketplace, you could compete with Salesforce and build a better CRM tool. Progressive web apps, Bootstrap, Node, as I said, there's no constraints over the front end, and we're building a marketplace ecosystem for our own channel partners to be able to sell their own services and code through the PlatformOS ecosystem as well. And,
so if there are any agencies out there as well, they may be interested in getting in touch in terms of being a channel, a partner.
Absolutely right. Yeah, we definitely would love to talk to our agencies. That's our key business model, to be honest. We work with these big enterprise clients, yes, and we work with amazing startups, yes. But our growth is coming through our channel partners and the sorts of solutions that channel partners are building on top of us. Their code being fed back into our code marketplace ecosystem is where we're seeing our longevity. It's extremely
well, congratulations. Exciting. So how many years will it take for every marketplace in the world to be built on PlatformOS? You're going to be taking over all of it.
Well, we a step at a time. I think we'll probably see a lot of WordPress sites migrate over because we have an import tool for those sorts of blogs. We'll see Shopify and Magento sites moving over. Actually, one thing I forgot to mention is, and this has come up a number of times, multilingual support. And as far as being able to, and I think this is an example. Yes, it is. So this is in Arabic. This will switch back to English. And it's a pretty comprehensive right to left type e-commerce marketplace.
Cool.
And again, built on us, over 100,000 products in here. And this is really important. As far as taking over the world, yeah, we're going to see a lot of different types of churn. But usually people importing or moving over from one incumbent service to another is a little more problematic. Net new businesses, and this goes for enterprise companies who are looking to start a new initiative and build a proof of concept like Spark did with WeDo. That's a kind of a no-brainer. But where they've already invested a lot of money into a separate system, sometimes the IT department is the blocker, or somebody who's on the team for a small startup who only knows that, I've only ever used PHP. This is how we're doing it. Or I'm just a Node developer now, or I need to build it in React. We support those, but if it's incumbent and there's a lot of technical debt, sometimes people just don't want to touch it now, and they don't want to migrate. It's going to come down to personal choice and a team decision. What often we say is, look, run in parallel, just rebuild better on PlatformOS, and then when you're ready, do a data
Switch over.
migration. But yeah, and switch over that way if they've made the decision to churn. But most people just start net new projects. So
When I'm talking to potential customers, they ask, what happens if we're not happy with your service for whatever reason? We decide to move away. You've discussed already exporting, and it. I'm sure most people building marketplaces don't anticipate leaving, but they want to know in that case what would happen, how easy is it? And I know this is one area that actually you kind of have a USP. You're making it very easy for people not to rely on one particular area versus another. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit?
yeah, that's a good question. It does come up. People go, well, hang on, I'm building on this platform. What happens when I need to move? So we do have the export tools. There's certain parts of the platform which are secret sauce. We don't tell people how we achieve the best SEO. So no, you can't take that with you, but you can take all the content. So take all your content, take all your data, and you would need to rebuild certain parts of the API on a different platform. So there will be some technical rebuild required. We use GraphQL and liquid markup and open source technologies like that. So actually taking things out, a good developer can rebuild very quickly. There's no issue if you've got a competent developer on your team to take it all. The churn process of going out is also, well, I need to own all the IP. Well, you do. Your code is your code. You've got a GitHub repository, and all your business rules are encapsulated in liquid markup, GraphQL, your business models in the data layer. So there's nothing proprietary that you can't just take elsewhere anyway. And people are building businesses on Shopify, on BigCommerce, on Magento. Yep, software as a service. So the argument around, well, I need to own the IP. Well, you own all your IP. You've got access to that. What you build it on top of, if it's proprietary and custom, what happens when your developer goes on a backpacking holiday around Scotland for 6 months and you bring in somebody else, or you grow your team and somebody says, why did you code on this? We've got to throw it all out. You're always going to have a level of technical debt. What you need to focus on is your customer experience and building your brand, because that's your intellectual property that can't be taken away. Technology will come and go, and new frameworks will come and go, and technologists will sit there pontificating and arguing their worldview on which frameworks are better than that. We just take the view of, well, whatever front-end framework you want to use it. Some might be better than others, but when it comes down to it, your successful marketplace is, are you solving a problem for your audience? Are you creating amazing customer experience? Is the user experience working well on the devices that you support? And are you building a brand around that?
Sure, that's really nice
that's
advice.
That's where you grow the value in your business. And ultimately people will look at, well, what are you built on? I'm built on Shopify. Okay, that's fine. People build e-commerce sites on that all the time. I'm built on PlatformOS. Let's have a look at that. Oh, wow. You can export. It's using open source GraphQL and liquid markup, and you've got all your own GitHub repository. Cool. If we need to, we could move off that and retool it. So that usually answers that question for most.
That makes sense. Thanks. Yeah. And it seems one of the great things is that it seems that you're constantly adding new features, and you have this secondary layer of developers who are external, who are also effectively adding new features to the platform, which is great. But let's just talk very briefly about what support looks like for customers who build a marketplace. In the worst case scenario, they break up with their CTO and they need some support, which is maybe less likely, but there is some kind of integration issues. They're building a new feature. What kind of support do you provide? What kind of expertise does your team have? Are you a big team? What kind of time involvement is there? And what does that look like in terms of cost? So you've put your 30 grand in. Now you want to get to the next level. What are you looking at in terms of tech investment?
Well, if you're looking to go to the next level, then it sounds like business is good. That's great. Hopefully you have some budget for either putting on a dedicated resource who's familiar with front-end development. in which case they can do it all themselves. We document everything. Documentation is absolutely critical to us, and making sure that we have up-to-date API reference details and how-tos and getting started and best practice, performance. We do end-to-end testing tutorials, everything. We also have our community. So the channel partner community, like Daniel, who we just showed off his little video profile creation tool. Yeah, so I mean, we've got a growing army of channel partners globally, everywhere from out of Sydney, Australia, New Zealand, UK, and it's growing. So those entrepreneurs who need to connect with us can, and they might go, well, have you got somebody else that's just a little bit less expensive? Because we have to account for opportunity cost in our team. We only put on senior developers, and we have exceptional UX, UI team who work direct with our enterprise clients, and there's a premium for that. Now, smaller agencies don't quite have the overhead that we do and can be more competitive. So there's a big choice of what you can do if you're moving to the next step away from MVP, and you don't want to put it on your own tech team. Talk to us, and if that's not ideal, we can connect you with partners like SiteGlide and many others.
Great. So there's really something for everyone's budget. That's perfect. Another quick question here, pivoting to the idea of native apps. One of the first things that people do is build out the web app, build the web platform, and then once they've reached some level of usability and user engagement, they might want to release maybe a native app. How would that work on your system?
Great question. Exactly what we is doing right now. All of the API endpoints that are used for the web development, including building progressive web apps and single page applications, can also be accessed and used in native apps. So that's what we see happening across the board with developers building on our platform and our enterprise clients like we do. So the support for native is taken care of by the fact that we have APIs for everything. And our documentation page, there it is. We publish all of those references, and you can create your own API endpoints. So we have our own REST APIs, but there's also the ability to create your own endpoints through GraphQL. So you've got no constraints. What if you want to build a voice activated app through Amazon Alexa?
And are there kind of case studies for these features?
The documentation shows how to do things, and there is some examples. We're publishing more and more of those examples, and also sharing code. AMP, Google, I think. Oh no, it's page. Oops, let's put the right spelling in there. Using static AMP, building AMP pages. So this is a quick example of accelerated mobile pages. So we've got some articles, how to, it takes you through everything, but then we go, oh, and by the way, here's the code.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got the code that's published here as well. So there we go. There's the code, go and download it.
The user engagement, connections to user engagement tools like Intercom, adding in that link to the Intercom API, or HubSpot, for example. So, once you have the data, how easy is it to kind of connect to those kind of user engagement sections?
You've got full access to integrate with all of those sorts of tools. Everything from little JavaScript plugins through to using Crazy Egg or any of those other sort of user experience monitoring services. Mm-hmm. There's no constraints around that. We recognize that third-party tools and plugins need to be made available and easy to insert, and a front-end developer has no problem in doing that. So yes, great. We can do all of that.
Do you have any existing connections? For example, you already have Stripe set up, I saw on your list, to escrow providers.
So escrow, it can be catered for in a few different ways. You can use services like Stripe managed payments, but when it comes to escrow, be very careful on what the legal jurisdictional requirements are around legislation for escrow. It's a tricky one, and you would work with your payment gateway of choice to determine that yes, you tick the boxes when it comes to that. But you could maybe have payments coming in on Stripe and paying out on PayPal, or you could so you could be escrowing in that scenario. But are you doing it legally? That's the
I mean, I'm
question.
talking specifically in terms of an escrow provider like Mango Pay, for example.
Right. Yes, exactly right. So you can integrate all those. In fact, we have again, like the GDPR framework, we have a payment gateway framework. So integrating different payment gateways is totally doable. If it's not already integrated, then you can actually integrate with anything. And it's just a webhook connector. And we make it easy to store the response code and map to that provider through the API connector. So yes, we have documented all that. And as I said, we created a framework for integration of any API compliant external third-party services. And we have third-party approaches to not just payment providers, production domain, third-party payment provider. There is some specific articles. Actually, there might be one on Salesforce. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, there we go. Key value pairs and how to do a Salesforce integration and alerts. Let me get that one up. Let's have a look. Anyway, look, I could go on all day around looking at different
No, that's answered my question.
Workflows.
That's really great. Do you have another thought that comes to mind is that once people actually set up the marketplace itself, they'll need some sort of an admin dashboard to manage the day-to-day user profiles or edits to someone's job post. Obviously, it seems like your system allows people to build their own dashboard, but do you have a pre-configured one, just out of the box that you can add in pretty quickly?
Yeah, we do. And an example here, here's desks near me. But we do suggest that people look at how they go about, what their business rules are to build their own specific dashboard that's specific to their business and get rid of the clutter. Like having a generic dashboard is okay, but do you need it? Is it going to be a distraction? And in most cases, we find that yes, it is, because people start saying, well, what about this feature? And what about that feature? You end up with shiny object syndrome, and you go down the path of, oh, well, there's all these menu items in this generic menu system, and now I'm thinking features. Forget features. Think about user experience. But the answer is yes. For example, desk near me, different action types. I can have a purchase, a subscription, no action, event-based, time-based billing. Here we go, time-based billing. 1 month, 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour. Cancellation policies. There's a whole bunch of things that we can do all through the UI. So we can set up refund policies here, etc. This is through an admin that's very generic, but as I said, it's probably ends up creating more distraction.
And then presumably you can also then go into those data points and customize them by adding new inputs, for example.
That's right. You can do your own customization, and that's
how we
add
a person's university or their hometown or something like that as an input requirement.
Yep. Yeah, and what it's doing is it's actually creating a config file, because ultimately what will happen is somebody will say, well, I don't want to be on this dashboard. I want my own. I want to do this through a mobile app. I need to do this voice activated. So if it's not being able to be accessed through an API or the config file through a command line interface tool that most developers use, then there's a problem in the longer term. So we started with that basis. Build for developers and then layer on top of that option for people that are less technical.
Okay, so before we get into the last, few questions, a quick summary then. It seems from my perspective that you really have a platform that's built for the future. You've got SEO taken care of, GDPR, you've got your all sorts of different modules that you can add. It's suitable for people kind of getting started after their MVP stage to put a bit of money in it and build something that can scale for the future. But is it equally fair to say that if anyone's building a marketplace and they've got some good ideas, they have a little bit of money, maybe even kind of 10, 15 grand, it's worth having a conversation with you and getting in touch with your sales team just to see whether it's something that maybe you can redirect towards, was it Sidekick, or what was the name of your channel partner?
SiteGlide, yeah, SiteGlide.
SiteGlide. So are you open to having these conversations with people? And if so, how do people
For
get in touch
sure.
with you?
Yeah, so the best place to start is to head over to our soon to be revamped website. Our new branding hasn't been applied quite yet. I'll share the screen. So if you head over to you can just see that, yeah, PlatformOS.
PlatformOS.com.
Yeah, so talk to sales. Just click on that button, and somebody will definitely be following up with you. So whether we're exactly the right fit, we might be technologically, but budget-wise, maybe not. And that's where we will work with you, find out how we can help, what value we can add in sharing some learnings, but also connect you with the right channel partner if we're not necessarily the right person based on budget.
I mean, I can definitely echo that. When I was getting started in terms of the marketplace scene, I reached out to a bunch of people, and Adam, you've been really friendly. You've always been available for a call, and if you're a reflection of what your team's like, I can imagine that people are going to get a great feeling from that kind of response. So I would recommend anyone to go and take a look, have a chat with you, and ask any questions that they have. Just on the final, a final question, Adam, unless you have any comments you want to make in addition to that. Is there anything specific, in addition to everything you've mentioned already, that you think really makes PlatformOS and NearMe stand out as a marketplace builder or software or infrastructure, as opposed to some of the other really big branded platforms out there?
Yeah, I think definitely our approach has been to be infrastructure agnostic, to be developer first, so developer friendly first, to be future thinking and not tying you down to specific frameworks. And I think it's a really important thing that I've learned over the many decades I've been in technology, is how can you ensure the growth of your marketplace on an initial technology stack that can grow with you. And I think for other choices out there, there's too much limitation. It's really easy, but then there's too much limitation, not flexible enough. So you end up with, you have to leave anyway. So we've taken the approach of how do we make sure that the platform is developer friendly first, but also provide ways for the entrepreneur to get started quickly. And we ourselves take on that ethos of not being locked in by also being multi-platform. So we don't want to just be on AWS. That's why we're working with Google. We're working with Azur, because at a certain point, you do want to be able to have that power to negotiate around those infrastructure providers.
Brilliant. Thanks, Adam. I really appreciate that. Is there any kind of final comments you want to make? Or, I mean, we've spoken a lot already, so.
Yeah, no, fair enough too. And I really appreciate your time and everybody's time that's been listening. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect with anybody. I try to reply to most people. And if I'm not able to help, I'll connect you with somebody who can. And whether that's an internal team member or with our channel partners, and ultimately whatever other technology might be out there that we respect. So happy to connect, and thanks for the opportunity to present, Iman. It's been great.
Thanks so much, Adam. Keep up the great work, and I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Thanks again, Iman. All the best, mate.